I wanted to show you some of the things and make a video of some of the things I went over in class the other day. So, here's just a generic handle, and I've made one little dot here that I want to make some bristles from, and then I'm going to use those to create an insert mesh brush. So, to do this, I'm just going to turn on my light box, turn on my preview, get those. That's looking pretty good. You see that my gravity is taking it away. That's because I had it turned like this when I turned on the preview. So what I'm going to do, and I've got this ridiculous plastic material on there. So let me turn that off and fill the object here. And also I'll go to an orthographic view so that the gravity won't so negatively affect these things. So I want to keep it on this, so I'm just going to make sure I've got mRGB turned on, go to my color, fill object, and now I can come back to my fiber mesh here, preview it, and you see that since I switched to the orthographic view, now this looks a lot better. And then I can open up my modifiers. Let's see, definitely want to make these a little bit longer. Maybe not that long. Try 400. That looks pretty good. And then here I can drop my coverage, and I can make things a lot more optimum just in terms of the polygon count, because I'm going to make a lot of these. So I can drop my max fibers. Drop the max fibers and increase the coverage. Let's just take that to 4. That looks pretty good. I may go even smaller now with my coverage. And then the coverage will make the bristles wider. Let's try something like 90. Yeah, that looks fine. In fact, yeah, that looks so good. I think I'm going to drop the max, to 2. And it looks like I may want to make the length a little bit longer. I'm going to try work with some of the other settings first before I come back to the length. Gravity, I want to turn all the way up so that it's kind of pulling everything straight down. And do all this while you're in a orthographic view. If you're in a view like this, and you turn your preview off and then turn it back on, you'll see that it's pulling things to the side. So get in an orthographic view, turn it off, turn it back on, and now you have it. Another thing to be aware of is if you have double on in your display settings, display properties rather, if you have double turned on, you may get double. Yeah, you might get something like that. So if you're getting it poking up through the other side, then wow, that's actually kind of cool. Then turn your preview off, come down, turn double off, and then turn your preview back on, and now everything should be cool. In fact, though, let's make sure I'm in my orthographic view. Yep, turn it back on. All right, let's get the other things here. I probably want to turn the clumping up on it to try to pull it in a little bit tighter. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Let's see about the length. Or sorry, not the length now, but the root scale, I'm going to make those even, so 1 and 1. I could try pulling out the scale tip a little bit just to kind of even things out. Let's zoom in and take a look and see how that does. Yeah, that's okay. Maybe not that much. Let's just try 2. Yeah. And it's good to go ahead and get all these kinds of settings the way you want them. Twist, we'll leave it 18, which I think is fine. It's good to have a little bit of twist in them. If you want very straight, just stick-like bristles, then turn the twist out of that. Let's see, the profile here is the number of sides per fiber. Right now this thing is single-sided, so really if you looked at the backs of some of these strips you wouldn't see them, they'd be invisible. If you do 2 sides, then you could see the back and front of the strip, and if you do 3 profile sides, then you'd have a kind of a triangular cross section, kind of an extruded triangle. And then segments are the number of segments along the length of this thing. Right now it has 3. 3 is just fine for this. You can turn it up a little bit if you want a little bit straighter pieces, but I think for the most part 3 should be just fine. And so once you get all these set, then you can come up and work with your length more. So I think that's still a little short. Let's try 600. Oop, not 60, but 600. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe a little bit more. Let's try 650, because I'm gonna cut it off somewhere around in here. Yeah, and that looks pretty good. Good even coverage across there. So once you get all that the way you want it, just come up to accept and accept it, and that will make it its own subtool here. So let's come in and do a little housekeeping. Let's rename that to handle. And let's name these to, well, actually I'm going to delete these, so I'm not going to worry about naming it. So I'm going to come down and select it and make sure the handle is hidden. Actually, I'm going to leave the handle on for this next little bit, but make sure I'm selected. I have the bristle subtool selected, and to lop it off, I'm just going to use the slice curve right here to cut it into different polygroups. The first thing I want to do, though, is get rid of that reflected plastic material. I just want something very basic. So I'm just going to go to a basic material there. And then Shift F to see the polyframes, and you can see these things are kind of red. And so what I want to do is trim it off right here. So I'm just going to hold Control and Shift, drag across, and you see that changes these to a different polygroup. And then I can come up, hold Control Shift, change brushes to the Select Rectangle or Select Lasso, and hold down Control Shift and click on the parts I want to keep, and that hides the parts that I don't want to keep. And then I can either bring up my custom menu or come to Geometry, Modify Topology, and Delete Hidden. So now I have just the geometry that I want to turn into a insert mesh brush. So to do that, I'm going to hide the handle, and I want to rotate around. You know, depending on the type of insert mesh brush you're trying to make, you may have to do some rotation, or you will have to do some rotation to establish its insert point. So to do that, I'm going to rotate down and look dead on at these things and make sure I'm not in a perspective view. I'm in an orthographic view. And once I've done that, I can just come over to Brush and create Insert Mesh brush from that. And I want to make a new one. I'm not trying to append this onto existing brushes, so I'm just going to say New. And you see I've made an Insert Mesh brush from this. And then I want to save it, so I'll come back up to Brush and Save As. And you see I've already done one in here, so let's do an Insert Mesh 02. Or sorry, not Insert Mesh 02, but Insert, I'll just call it Insert _ Bristle. Bristles. And remember this if you need to find this thing again. So it's in your program files, Because Logic, ZBrush 406 data, startup resources is where it puts these. And I think you can move these around to different brush presets or wherever or in the light box so that you can pull these up when you need them. So now that I've done that, I'm going to make this thing a brush that I can use to put things in. Let's see, let me check on my time here. Yeah, I've got a few minutes here, so that should be good. To do that, now you can see though that I can come up here to my handle and I can just start drawing these out. And if you run into issues with them inserting too deep or too shallow, come over to the brush menu and adjust the depth. And if you move this thing all the way up, right now it's at as high as it can go, but and it looks like it's doing a good job. It's inserting right at that surface. If it's too shallow, that you may want to reverse the direction that you create the brush in. But otherwise, you could move the. I should just dock this here. Let me dock that and hide. The custom. Yeah. So if I pull this down, you'll see that if I draw, it's going to draw. It'll sink it into the object. Whereas if I keep it up here, it'll put it right on the surface. And again, your brush size and your the length I drag that out, click, hold, and drag will change that. And if I start moving my brush around, you can see it starts to kind of squish those things in or out. So it's best to just kind of draw it out all in one motion, and then come back. And you can clone these once you've drug them out. So I'm going to undo all of that. And let's see, I'm also going to hide this guy. And when I come back, I'll show you how to make these things so you can just kind of create a row of them wherever you drag your brush.